Okay, so we are live. It's 3:53 in the morning, 4:30, 2024, and I just wanted to come online and give an update on the massacre, technically in Charlotte. So let me play my intro, and I'll be right back. All right. So, hey, Arctic Fox, how are you? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, I don't sleep. Well, I sleep, but I sleep during the day, so it's kind of. Let me lighten up my screen a little bit here. Hold on a second. Let's go to the living room. What the hell? All right. So yeah, I'm gonna go over this thing going on in Charlotte. Hold on, and give me a second, and I might let's go to the press conference. So yesterday, um, there was a massive shootout, I believe, in um, Charlotte, North Carolina. And actually, let's just play this first. And apparently, I think there's actually 3 or 4 police officers that died. I know that 3 of them were marshal's deputies, I think. So let's go to that. Let me just switch here. All right, so let's do this here. This is such a horrible situation here. All right, so let's do this, and then I'll go to the press conference I think they had.
Charlotte, 8 officers shot today while serving a high-risk warrant in Charlotte. 2 officers, local officers, were killed. A third, a U.S. Marshal, Deputy U.S. Marshal, is part of that task force. And you could see the pain and the anguish in those local officers and in the mayor of Charlotte today.
A very emotional news conference, as we also know the suspect is dead. 2 other suspects in custody as the officers with this U.S. Marshals task force were serving this warrant. They approached a house, were met by gunfire, according to the chief. Charlotte.
All right, hold on a second. Let me fix this here. Every once in a while, my computer will stick, so my screen will move, and then I have to jump out of 2 different screens. It's a Microsoft nightmare. But right, so let's go back to this here. It's very troubling. So let's go to this here.
Deputy U.S. Marshal is part of that task force, and you could see the pain and the anguish in those local officers and in the.
So basically, what happens is when I when I move my mouse too fast, it'll grab my screen, and then it'll create another window, and it's really annoying.
Mayor of Charlotte today.
A very emotional news conference, as we also know the suspect is dead. Two other suspects in.
So as I was saying, this is just one of your old-fashioned shootouts here, and unfortunately, too many people died. Too many good people, law enforcement.
Custody as the officers with this U.S. Marshals Task Force were serving this warrant. They approached a house, were met by gunfire, according to the chief. And the police chief of Charlotte said that we lost heroes today, that this was a tragedy as people were just trying to keep this community safe.
Now we have Monica Casey. She is live there in Charlotte.
Apparently, they were trying to serve a warrant, and they just started receiving gunfire, and that's when everything went to shit. So,
Monica, we just heard the news conference. Tell us what you are hearing and what you are seeing on the ground there in Charlotte.
Yeah, Gerald, the emotion here is palpable. This is an incredibly somber situation. We are about a half mile from where all of this happened. Right now, we're here at the media staging area where that press conference was going on. We heard from the Charlotte chief of police here who said they lost heroes today who were just trying to keep this community safe. All of this unfolded around 1:30 this afternoon when the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force went to a home on.
hello, Jocelyn. How are you? I just replied to your comment. So I'm going over this on the massacre. I'm calling it in Charlotte. But good to see you.
Galway Avenue. They were there to serve a warrant on a person for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. The police chief said here just a few moments ago they were hit with gunfire and officers returned fire and struck one person who was then pronounced dead in the front yard. Then more gunfire was coming from inside. We took a listen to Broadcastify radio traffic around that time to learn how all of this was unfolding. Take a listen.
Okay, just be advised, I'm in the CPD headquarters and intel unit. It's going to be shots fired at officer, possibly one down. Two down, subjects barricaded themselves. They need to approach with a caution so we confirm scene secure.
Now, we have now learned 4 members of the U.S. Marshals Task Force were shot. 3 of them died. 4 Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officers were shot, and 1 of them is in critical condition right now. So that's a total of 8 law enforcement officers shot here in Charlotte today. That's 3 who died, 1 who is still in critical condition. The police chief emphasized here.
Oh, you're welcome. I was going to go live yesterday, but I had to go to work, so I had to get ready. Plus, there was a basketball game on, so I wanted to watch that too. But this is just a horrible situation that happened over there in Charlotte. Good to see you too, Arctic Fox. Let me go back to this here.
It's still early in this investigation. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered about what happened here, but this is what we know so far. We will continue to push for answers on how all of this unfolded here. Gerald?
Yeah, solemn day for law enforcement all over North Carolina, certainly. Monica Casey live in Charlotte. Thank you.
All right, so let me play. Give me a second here. Oh, did you see this thing too? This New York DA just didn't want to stop for a police officer, and she's the DA, giving the officer a whole bunch of rash of shit. All right, so let me hold on a second. I want to play. Let me get out of here. All right, so this is going to be the press conference here. I just wanted to come on quick and give an update on that. There's also more news coming out of Colorado, not Colorado, in the Susan Morphew case. I don't know if I'll go over that today, but there is some information about that too. Okay, wrong one. This, I don't know what this is.
Let's listen in here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Petrus. I'm a lieutenant with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I appreciate your patience this afternoon as we have worked through the situation that we've been dealing with today. There's no doubt that our Charlotte community has experienced a tragedy today. And it's one that, as a law enforcement community, we always know is possible, but we never expect. It never gets easier. We're going to do our best to answer your questions today, to provide details, to be transparent about the events of this afternoon. But I do implore you to understand that we're dealing with tragic loss of life today. And that loss of life is very fresh. There's details that we do not know. There's questions that we frankly just aren't going to be able to answer. We will take your questions. But first, the Chief of Police for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, Johnny Jennings, is going to come and give you some information and share his thoughts. I'll spell that for you. Johnny is Johnnny. Last name is Jennings, Jennings. After Chief Jennings, the mayor of the city of Charlotte, Vi Lyles, is going to come and share her thoughts. Vi, V-I, Lyles, L-Y-L-E-S. Chief.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Today's an absolute tragic day for the city of Charlotte and for the profession of law enforcement. Today we lost some heroes that are out to just simply try.
So this was done 8 hours ago. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but so apparently this was done when 3 U.S. Marshals were unalived, but the other one died too. So that's unfortunate, but so there's a total of 4 police officers shot.
Trying to keep our community safe. I'm going to try to go through a series of events of how this all occurred and played out, and then tell you a little bit more about the injuries and the things that we had to endure today as a profession and as a city. So about 1:30 p.m. this afternoon, the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force went to the 5,000 block of Galway Avenue in an attempt to serve a warrant on an individual for possession of firearm by a convicted felon. When they approached that individual, they were met with gunfire. Officers returned gunfire and struck the victim, who was later pronounced deceased in the front yard of the residence. As officers approached that individual, they then received additional gunfire from inside of the residence. So after a long standoff, we were able to clear this residence and confirm that there were 2 additional people inside. They were both brought to the police station as persons of interest, and we're trying to determine now what exactly occurred inside of the residence. Tragically, there were 3 members of the U.S. Marshals Task Force who were pronounced deceased, and there were 4 CMPD officers who were shot, one being in critical condition, who is now in the hospital.
This is absolutely terrible. I can't remember the last time I've heard of 3 deputy U.S. Marshals being unalived. I know there was a takedown of a suspect years and years and years ago, bank robbers. They turned out to be actually ex-police officers that were robbing banks. I forget the name of I forget where that was, where there's a huge shootout and a couple of the officers died, but I don't think they were marshals. So yeah, this is tragic. This is terrible.
Hospital fighting for his life. A total of 8 law enforcement officers were shot by the suspects in this house. So we are very early in the investigation. CMPD will lead this investigation. We still have a lot to uncover, a lot of questions that are not answered right now. So please respect the fact that I won't be able to answer some of the questions that you're going to have. But at the same time, we are going to diligently work on this to ensure that we bring a respect to these officers and these law enforcement officials that lost their lives today. And this
Charlotte, I don't know if anybody's ever been to Charlotte, but Charlotte's any place technically in North Carolina is great, but Charlotte's beautiful. I've been there.
This is a good example of what we try to tell people every single day, that when we put on this uniform, that we don't have any guarantees that we'll return home. But yet we have a lot of great men and women across this entire country that do it every single day to make sure that you're safe in your communities.
I'm telling you, man, law enforcement gets a bad rap, man. It just sucks.
So with that,
Some warranted, some not. But you know, when you hear about stuff like this, it's just aggravating that things can escalate this badly, where you have people shooting at cops. It's just ridiculous.
I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Vi Lyles. She'll want to say a few words.
I'm just going to put this mic down.
Yeah, we love the Carolinas. Been there millions of times. Carolinas are great. Closer to the coast, the better. But there's other spots in the Carolinas. There's places in North Carolina too that are pretty mountainous. We've been there too. It's beautiful.
You never know what your day is going to be like. You can't plan things like this to be in this space at this time. We've lost 3 people. They lost their lives after they gave us the opportunity to be in a safe place, and they lost their lives. These are people that care deeply about what they've done for a profession, and now today we have to say to them how much we are grateful for what they have done. We won't know very much about what happened until their investigation is done, but I know this about our community. Our community stands up for people. They stand up for all of the people that work for us, that make it possible. All of our officers.
Look, there's nobody wearing long sleeve shirts down here. Everybody's nice and comfy. It's nice and warm.
If you had a little bit of problem driving around today, I don't think anybody was too worried about that, because we know that there is a reason for this, and there's a reason that everything happens, and sometimes we don't understand it. But at this point, I know that this community will seek understanding. I know that our police department will seek understanding. I want to say this. We're very, very much grateful. Today, I heard from the White House about the loss of our officers and the situation that we were having to adjust to. I've heard from Congressman.
Have a great day, Charlotte. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Adams, as well as Congressman Jeff Jackson. On the way over here, the Speaker of the House, Tim Moore, and the President of our state Senate, they all talked about what can they do to help us. Now, we may not know what help we need right now today, but we do know that when people reach out to say this is something that is important that has happened, and they want to be a part of whatever we do, because there will be a time that we will commemorate these people that lost their lives. You think about it. Your father, your husband, your friend, your neighbor, all of them were one person like that. And today they're not going home. You know, 3 people lost their lives today. And the most that I can ask of our community is that we honor and respect them for all the work that they've done, all the work that we will do to make it possible for our city to be safer. Every one of us wants to be in a situation where you get up this morning and get to come back home. And someone didn't today. Keep your prayers, keep your faith. Make sure that these officers who have families have people to reach out and hold them up, because they will need this. And we are a city that will make it possible for them to be this way, to be able to live and know that we honor and respect the loss that they have. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to take just a moment just to clarify. There was a total of 4 CMPD officers that were struck by gunfire today, and 4 task force officers. That's a total of 8 law enforcement officers who were struck by gunfire today. I want to take a minute to recognize the people standing behind us here today. The first responder community, the government organizations that stand behind me. This is a community within the community. And it's incredible the bond that we have, and it's demonstrated in no other way like it is in moments of crisis and in moments of tragedy.
All right, I can come back to that. I want to play, give me a second here. I want to play this. All right, so let me get out of that. I'm going to go here.
Now from Fox, we're almost at the bottom of the hour. I'm Andrew Kraft. I want to get into more of these top headlines here. I want to show you this shot there of downtown Charlotte, North Carolina, that community reeling tonight in what has been a horrible and tragic day for law enforcement. We're now learning that a 4th law enforcement officer.
Hey, buddy. Hey, Necessary Levo. How are you? Good to see you, buddy. Just going over the massacre in North Carolina today. This is I was just playing the press conference, and now I'm playing this. I think this is one of the latest ones here.
Succumbed to their injuries tonight. That is the latest update that we have here. I want to put up some of these tweets that confirm it. Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department News says this: Officer Joshua Iyer has passed away tonight from his injuries after being shot in the line of duty this afternoon while assisting other officers with.
This sucks. Is he was taken to the hospital. It just sucks.
The apprehension of a suspect. Officer Iyer faithfully served the CMPD's North Tryon Division for 6 years, and you see there end of watch for Officer Iyer. Remember earlier, as we've been recounting this story and letting you know this story, we brought you the news that 3 officers on a U.S. Marshals task force serving a warrant for a felon wanted for possessing a firearm were killed. We now know that a 4th officer injured in this succumbed to their injuries. Mayor Vi Lyles of Charlotte says this: we're deeply saddened by the tragic loss of Joshua Michael Iyer, who was a loved member of our city family, who dedicated his life to serving our community. My heart breaks for his loved ones.
Yeah, this is terrible. I agree, buddy. I'm doing all right. Hope you're doing well, buddy.
CMPD and the entire city of Charlotte during this incredibly difficult time here. Let's get a rundown as well very soon here. Oh, Mayor Lyles going on to say, I ask that all Charlottians join me in uplifting the grieving families, CMPD, and our
Is that even a word, Charlottians?
entire law enforcement community here. So we're going to get a rundown and an update and a summary of how this all transpired today. But as we are now at the bottom of the hour here, 7:30 on the West Coast, 10:30 there in Charlotte, North Carolina. That is the breaking news we are bringing you right now, that a 4th law enforcement officer who responded to this today has succumbed to their injuries. We also know the president was briefed on the shooting as well in North Carolina, in which these multiple law enforcement officers were killed. He also spoke to Governor Roy Cooper on the phone. He expressed his condolences and support for the community. The White House also says, in addition, senior White House officials are in touch with federal, state, and local officials. Fox News correspondent Bill Melugin says this: 4 members of law enforcement have now died as a result of a shootout with armed suspects while serving a fugitive warrant in Charlotte today. RIP. Sadly, has to be one of the deadliest days for law enforcement city's history there. We also know President Biden will be traveling to Wilmington, North Carolina on Thursday. No doubt he'll be meeting, most likely, and speaking with some of the law enforcement officers who were involved in this horrible, tragic incident today.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's really, really hard to imagine that 3 U.S. Marshals were involved in this, because usually, I mean, you just don't hear about that every day.
Let's get you up to speed on this story.
Tragedy unfolding in North Carolina on Monday after 3 law enforcement officers were shot and killed while serving a warrant at a home in Charlotte. Investigators say the officers were part of a U.S. Marshals task force. They were first shot at as they approached the property. Police returned fire, shooting and killing a man in the front yard. The same one officers were there for, wanted for felony firearm possession.
We have confirmed that the
They were like ambushed, kind of.
individual that was set up, that we were serving the warrant on, was the individual who fired the initial shots.
Then more gunfire from inside the home. A 3-hour standoff ensued.
Stepped outside my door, police were running by, and then ambulance started coming in, and they were just going everywhere.
4 Charlotte Mecklenburg officers who responded were also shot while trying to rescue their wounded comrades. One currently hospitalized in critical condition. Another member of the task force also wounded during the shootout.
We heard about over 100 gunshots. It sounded like World War III.
Ultimately, a SWAT team arrived on scene using an
Yeah, they said there was at least 100 gunshots that they counted.
armored vehicle to crash into the home. Inside, a woman and a 17-year-old male were taken into custody. Police say a high-powered rifle was found inside that home. Law enforcement tonight grieving the lives that were lost.
Today's an absolute tragic day for the city of Charlotte and for the profession of law enforcement. Today we lost some heroes that are out to just simply trying to keep our community safe.
Kevin Nowitzki, Fox News.
Kevin, thanks so much. So you can't even imagine what this community is going through right now. We also learned the officers were first shot at by the wanted suspect as they approached the suburban home there in Charlotte. They killed him in the front yard. A second person then fired
Good. I mean, good.
on officers from inside of the home where a high-powered rifle was found. A woman and a 17-year-old male were found in the home after a 3-hour standoff that included armored vehicles
Those 2 people are lucky they weren't unalived.
crashing into the suburban home in this tree-lined neighborhood.
All right, so let me get out of here. I'll play one more. There's some more news going on with the Susan Morphew case too. Hold on a second. Let me share this.
Today's an absolute tragic day for the city of Charlotte and for the profession of law enforcement.
Chaos. Nothing but police jumping out that car with the guns drawn. Oh, they busted. Oh my God.
It's a man, there's some shooting going on. Man, we ain't never had nothing like this.
There was about 50 cop cars, and it happened in under 2 minutes.
This was a brutal attack on these officers who were merely trying to serve a warrant.
And we come on the air.
I wonder if there's going to be some sort of a GoFundMe thing. I'll have to keep an eye on that for, this just sucks.
Tonight with breaking news as yet another law enforcement officer has died following this afternoon's shootout in East Charlotte. CMPD confirming Officer Joshua Iyer has passed away tonight from his injuries. We're also learning the names of 2 of the 3 others who died today. You see their photos there as well. They are Sam Peloche and Alden Elliott. Both were Department of Adult Correction veterans assigned to the U.S. Marshals Carolinas Regional Fugitive Task Force. 4 other officers are also wounded this evening. We thank you for joining us. I'm Vanessa Rufus.
Just kind of makes you angry that this shit can actually freaking happen. You know, it's like, can't just, it's just really weird.
And I'm Colin Mayfield here at CMPD headquarters in Uptown. It has been an extremely long day, not only for the city of Charlotte, but a very trying and difficult day for CMPD and all the other law enforcement agencies that serve and protect here in Charlotte. It was just a U.S. Marshals Task Force team trying to serve a warrant at a home in East Charlotte when they were shot upon. We have team coverage tonight of this deadly shootout, the entire ordeal. We're going to go to WCNC's Charlotte, Teresa Woodard, in just a second, who's not far from us at a courthouse where there's already a makeshift memorial. But first, we're going to start with WCNC Charlotte's Julia Kaufman to bring us all the latest breaking details that we learned, especially from that press conference in the 9 o'clock hour. Julia?
Colin, I am at
Yeah, there was another press conference at 9 o'clock, and I can't seem to find it. But if I can find it, I'll play it.
Atrium Health, Carolina's medical center, which confirms it's treating law enforcement officers who were shot today. It's also offering emotional support for their family and colleagues as today's shooting causes unimaginable grief and trauma. The Charlotte community is mourning the loss of 4 law enforcement officials as the nation watched Monday's events in horror.
And the most that I can ask of our community is that we honor and respect them for all the work that they've done, all the work that we will do to make it possible for our city to be safer.
Monday afternoon, gunshots rattled this East Charlotte neighborhood after the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force attempted to serve a state arrest warrant for possession of a firearm by a felon. Police say when officers approached a house on Galway Drive, a suspect started shooting at them. Officers returned fire and the suspect died. As they approached him, police say someone from inside the house started shooting at them.
The individual that was set up that we were serving the warrant on was the.
Well, see, I didn't know that. I thought it was the guy that they were serving the warrant on. So there was another person in the house that was shooting at them after they unalived the first suspect. Okay, that makes more sense.
Individual who fired the initial shots and was deceased in the front yard at the end of all of this.
The standoff forced neighbors to shelter in place and 4 schools to go into modified lockdown. When police cleared the scene, they say they found 2 people inside the house, a 17-year-old and a woman who are, quote, persons of interest.
We're trying to determine now what exactly occurred inside of the residence.
Roads around Novant Health and Atrium Health were shut down to make way for emergency vehicles coming from the scene. CMPD says a total of 8 law enforcement officials were shot. The U.S. Marshals Service confirms one of their marshals was killed, along with 2 other task force members who were parole officers. CMPD officer Joshua Iyer, who was critically injured, died at the hospital.
Okay, so I got it straight now. It was one U.S. Marshal, and then the rest were okay.
Hours later.
We'll always be indebted to Officer Iyer for his bravery and his sacrifice for this profession.
As Vanessa mentioned, we now know the names of 2 more victims tonight, Samuel Peloche and William Elliott with the Corrections Department. Our hearts go out to the victims' families and the officers who are recovering tonight. Live at Atrium Health, Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
Yeah, Julia, you said it best, rattled. I think that's what the entire city is feeling tonight. We do want to get back to that memorial that is growing at the courthouse. Tradisha Woodard has that. And Tradisha, it just brings to mind and to memory.
Okay, so give me a second. I want to kind of give people a layout of the land here. So this is the area here where this all took place, right in here. I think this is East Charlotte, but somewhere in here. This is Galway Drive here. All right, so let's get back to that. What am I doing? It's raining.
What Mayor Vi Lyles said earlier today, that she wanted the community to come out and honor and support. And we're seeing that already, Tradisha.
That's right, Colin. Flowers and plants have been placed here outside of the courthouse in honor of the lives lost. Take a look, give you a better perspective of what we're talking about.
God, that lady's eyes are just absolutely amazing.
We saw one earlier. You can see just a few more plants have been placed since then. Now, I've spoke with folks who live in the neighborhood where the incident happened, and they say there's only one word to describe what happened today, and that's chaos.
I heard 3 shots and I was like, all right, somebody's shooting. 30 seconds later, I heard like 7 shots. And I was like, dang, maybe they got a new gun. 30 seconds later, I heard like 10 shots.
They busting.
Bullets screeching through the air.
I have no idea how many gunshots I heard. There was a lot, and it seemed to only make the cops run faster at the scene.
The active gunfire from a suspect inside an East Charlotte home, and law enforcement
So this must be the house here. I'm assuming this is the house here.
officers later led to a lockdown near Galway Drive. The lockdown causing massive traffic delays and many people waiting for hours to get inside their homes.
It's hot. You can't get in the house. You can't get in or out.
This street was blocked off. They had all of this blocked off. We had to walk down here. My car is all the way up there.
Some neighbors told me hearing gunshots in this neighborhood is not uncommon, but seeing a heavy police scene like this is very unusual.
It was the largest police presence,
Look at all the cops. There's hundreds of cop cars.
as you can see, I've ever seen in my entire life. This is scary. I could hear the gunshots happening.
As neighbors express their concerns for crime, they say they're also sending prayers for those who lost their lives in this gunfight, a fight where 4 law enforcement officials were killed, killing parts of a community and a country, too. And emotions continuing to run high tonight, not only from residents who live in that neighborhood, but also from residents.
This is absolutely just horrible. Like I said, I caught the tail end of this before I started getting ready for work yesterday, and I wanted to do a live, but I just didn't have enough time. But I was pulling for the guy that was, taken to the hospital, but obviously he didn't make it.
All across this community, city leaders, county leaders. It's a tragedy. Reporting for WCNC, I'm Tradisha Woodard.
Yeah, Tradisha, a day that many of us hope to never see again, and a day that many of us have never seen, as the chief said earlier today. So we had crews spread out over the entire city today, trying to get the information to you. And we had crews, obviously, in our newsroom doing the same thing to bring you the correct information. And then we verified it for you on air as well. So now that things have settled overnight now, we want to give you a complete timeline of everything that happened earlier today.
At 1:30 p.m., members of the U.S. Marshals Task Force were serving warrants at a home. That's when the shootout started.
So they were serving a warrant for a felon who was in the possession of a weapon.
15 minutes later, CMPD issued a severe alert, warning people to stay away from the area. At 2:08 p.m., we learned multiple victims were taken to area hospitals. It took until 3:12 p.m. for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools to confirm to WCNC Charlotte that 4 nearby schools.
They locked down all of these schools here, the 4 of them.
Schools were on lockdown. That lockdown was lifted finally at 3:41. CMPD sent out an update at 4:56 that officers had cleared that residence, and at the same time, CMPD confirming the death of a suspect. Then at 5:53 p.m., CMPD confirms in a press conference that 3 task force officers were killed. At 9:40 p.m. in a news conference, Police Chief Johnny Jennings confirms that a 4th life was taken today. Officer Joshua Iyer.
That sucks. That really just sucks.
So there are certainly more questions than answers tonight, Vanessa, and I think many people, their prayers are just with those families, those 8 officers, the 4 obviously that were taken from us today. It's hard to put into words what today not only meant and felt like, but there's a lot of work.
From serving a warrant, unbelievable.
To do on the back end for the investigation as well.
Indeed. Yeah, such a sobering day for so many folks, this entire community in mourning. And you're right, Colin, we are hearing from so many people who are giving their sentiments. We are just now hearing from President Joe Biden, who has issued this statement saying this earlier today. 4 brave law enforcement officers, including a deputy U.S. Marshal, were killed in the line of duty. They are heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice rushing.
I'm just wondering if it was the woman that was in the house that was firing back at the cops, because that seems to be what happened, but I can't. That's just speculation because there were two other people in the house. So
into harm's way to protect us. We mourn for them and for their loved ones. He also added this, quote, "We must do more to protect our law enforcement officers. That means funding them so they have the resources they need to do their jobs and keep us safe. And it means taking additional action to combat the scourge of gun violence." Tonight, the reaction continues to pour in from other officials, all levels of government.
Right.
Governor Roy Cooper actually came from Raleigh to Charlotte tonight to be briefed on the devastating news. Here's what he had to say.
It reminds us of.
all right, so let's get out of that. I do want to play this one here. Hold on a second. Yeah, I know there was two other people. See, I thought I thought that all of the incidents took place in the house, but apparently that's not the case. They unalived the guy, the suspect first, and then they received fire from inside the house. I didn't know that. All right, so let's do this.
I come to you again with heavy heart to announce that Officer Joshua Iyer recently passed away as he succumbed to the injuries that he sustained this afternoon.
So this is a part of the second briefing that they had later, probably around 10 o'clock or so.
The shooting. Officer Iyer has been with CMPD for 6 years.
That was Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Chief Johnny Jennings announcing just moments ago that.
Yeah, the original suspect, I think, was unalived on the front lawn, and then they started getting gunfire from inside the house. So I'm assuming that it's the two other people that were inside the house, but I could be wrong.
The fourth officer, Josh Iyer, has died from his injuries after being ambushed this afternoon outside a home in East Charlotte. 3 members of the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, a U.S. Marshal, and 2 officers with the North Carolina Department of Adult Correction were also killed. 4 other officers were shot.
The task force was sent to this home on Galway Drive to serve a warrant for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. And when officers got there, they say the man they intended to serve that warrant to began firing. Multiple officers were shot and the suspect was killed. And police say another person in the home fired additional shots. Fox 8's Cassie Fambro is near the scene for us in Charlotte. Cassie, the investigation is in the early stages.
Katie and Neil, this is a very somber scene, especially as officers here have learned that one of their own has passed away after the incident that took place earlier today. We're about 1 block away from the home where this all transpired on Galway Drive. Officers here still blocking access to that area, but earlier we did get to walk up with our cell phones, not our cameras, and get a closer look. And it is just a very startling scene to see. Just dozens of law enforcement vehicles still surrounding this house. In the middle of the street, you can see placard after placard of evidence markers laid out as they work to complete this investigation after they attempted to serve a warrant and everything went so terribly wrong with this fugitive task force responding to this house and then gunfire meeting them there, killing 3 of those U.S. Marshal Task Force members. Now, this task force, it's important to note, is made up of people of different agencies. Just like Neil said, 2 of those 3 from the Adult Department of Corrections through the state of North Carolina. The other one, their office not yet identified. When they called for backup, it was Charlotte Met.
That's why I'm telling you couldn't pay me enough to be a police officer, man. You just couldn't do it. You know, I know they got guns and stuff like that, but you just never know. This was a complete ambush here.
Mecklenburg police who arrived first. And unfortunately, more gunfire awaited. And we now know that Officer Iyer has passed away from his injuries. Joshua Iyer, 6 years of service, a member of the 178th recruit class. They say they are forever indebted to Officer Iyer for his bravery and, quote, ultimate sacrifice.
And this is just serving a warrant. That's all they were doing was serving a warrant, right? It's like.
So again, just a very, very hard time that Mayor Vi Lyle says is going to take a lot to get through.
Every one of us wants to be in a situation where you get up this morning and get to come back home. And someone didn't today. Keep your prayers, keep your faith. Make sure that these officers who
This has got to be every person's worst nightmare that's related to a police officer, or it's just absolutely, it's got to suck.
have families, have people to reach out and hold them up.
And we have heard that Back the Blue is setting up a fundraiser for the injured officer's family, as well as the family of this fallen CMPD officer and the task force members who
Okay, good. So they are setting up a fundraiser. I'll probably send something to that.
were killed here today. And just like you said, Katie, the investigation is in its very preliminary stages. People have a lot of questions as they grapple with the horrific tragedy that happened in East Charlotte today. For now, live in Charlotte, Cassie Fambro, Fox 8 News.
Cassie, thank you for that. And here at home, local law enforcement sending out their thoughts and prayers for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. Greensboro PD posted this statement on X, reading in part, law enforcement everywhere feels the heartache because at the end of the day, we are one big family. And Winston-Salem Police posted this message on Facebook, reading, loss of life among our law enforcement family weighs heavily on all of us. Once you have taken the oath as a law enforcement officer, the duty to protect and serve is always upheld. Rest easy, officers. We have the watch from here. Both departments are standing by to assist CMPD if needed.
And North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper sharing his condolences this evening on social media, posting, our hearts are with the families and co-workers of officers in today's brutal attack, including 2 State Department of Adult Correction officers working with the U.S. Marshals Task Force who were shot and killed. The governor's office says the governor has been in communication with President Biden, who has been.
Okay, so, I mean, just keep everybody in your thoughts, man. It's just poor families. All right, so before I get out of here, I'm going to play a little of this because this is, I'll be covering more of this, give me a second, Saturday night. This is the Susan Morphew case here, and there's been an update on this. So let me play this here from 9 News. So, if anybody doesn't know about Susan Morphew, I suggest you look it up. They finally found her remains. I think it was last year over the summer. Her husband's already, I believe her husband was already brought up on charges, and then they dropped the charges, but now they've actually got some of the autopsy reports back from what she died from.
Thank you for joining us this noon. I'm Erica Lopez. Right now, we're following breaking news in one of the most high-profile murder cases in the state. An autopsy released today shows Suzanne Morphew's cause of death is homicide. The mom of 2 went missing in Chaffee County in 2020, and her remains were discovered 3 years later. 9 News reporter Mark Sounder has been following the case since the beginning and joins us now with these breaking details. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Erica. The report from the coroner's office says Suzanne Morphew had several sedatives and tranquilizers found in her.
I would not be surprised within the next couple of weeks he doesn't get arrested again. I would be shocked.
Bones. They're drugs that would usually be used to tranquilize animals. That's a major development in this case because prosecutors have alleged for years that her husband, Barry Morphew, shot her with a tranquilizer before killing her. Barry Morphew was arrested in 2021 while his wife was still missing. Then the murder charges against him were dropped just days before the case was set to go to trial. At this point, Barry is a free man and is not facing any charges. The autopsy report confirms that Suzanne was found with her bike clothing in a shallow grave in Saguache County. Investigators believe that she went on a bike ride on Mother's Day of 2020 and never returned. Barry's attorneys spoke only to 9 News this morning. They're defending him, saying he's innocent.
Based upon the information provided to me at the time of the report, it is my opinion that Susan Morphew, a 52-year-old adult white female, died as a result of a unaliving by unspecified means in the setting of butyramorphanol. Wow. These drugs are marketed and are a compounded injectable chemical immobilizer for wildlife, providing pharmacologically reversible. This is everything they thought it was.
Arguing that anyone could have shot her with a tranquilizer.
Barry Morphew is innocent and he could not have killed his wife.
Hi, Karen. How are you? Oh, you're welcome. I was gonna cover it last night. I just had to go to work, and I was pulling for the fourth guy, but I just wanted to cover it this morning before I went to bed. So sorry if you missed it. Then now I'm covering the Susan Morphew update, and then I'm gonna get out of here.
Got up the morning of Mother's Day, had her cup of coffee. That is now confirmed with the autopsy report. Also confirmed with the autopsy report was that she put on her bike clothes, and we know where the bike was found. So she was on a bike ride and abducted. The tranquilizer that was found in her bones, allegedly, is a very common animal tranquilizer that could be used on farms or by hunters, which are people that are very prevalent in that area in Salida.
Barry's attorney also tells us that a bullet was found in the shallow grave near the town of Moffett, where Suzanne was located.
I just call that bullshit. You know, that's a crappy defense.
At this point, we don't know where the case goes from here, though. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation confirms they continue to investigate, though they won't say if there is currently a suspect or suspects in this case, Erica.
And that's kind of the big question top of mind. We were just chatting about this in the break. Of course, this is a really big deal. Is Barry a suspect? Does this bring him back into the picture, Mark?
I asked Barry's attorneys this morning, is Barry a suspect, point blank? And they said they don't know. They haven't been told yes or no whether he's a suspect. An interesting part of this, the coroner's office gave Barry and his daughters the opportunity to go get Suzanne's remains and bring them home. I'm told by his attorneys that his attorneys told him, don't do that. We don't know if you're still a suspect in this case.
Wow.
I don't know if he can be tried again, but I don't think he was tried. I think they just dropped the charges. So I think he can be tried because I think they dropped the
At
charges.
this point, her remains are still at the coroner's office.
Okay, certainly some questions. I know you're going to continue to break this down throughout the day on 9 News at 4, 5, and 6.
Exactly.
All
We'll
right,
be
Mark,
busy.
thank you so
All right. So that's that. Just want to do a quick moment of whatever silence for the cops that were unalive today. Just horrible. All right, so I want to thank everybody for coming in on this unannounced live here. Thoughts definitely go out to the families of the unalived police officers. It's just awful. Keep them in your thoughts. All right, thank you, Necessary Evil, for coming in. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Arctic Fox. Arctic Fox is awesome. He's got a great channel. Check him out. Jocelyn, thank you for coming in. But it's raining out here pretty good, so I got to get out of here. I'll see you guys all later. And if there's any updates, I'll let you know. Have a good day. Stay safe, guys.
much.